Let's go back now to our top story on racism in English cricket. Kevin Brennan is the Labour MP for Cardiff West and a member of that committee, the Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee, who took evidence from the former Yorkshire player Azim Rafiq this afternoon. Evening to you, Kevin.
Hello.
Tell me, what went through your mind when you were listening to that testimony from Azim Rafiq, and did it come as an eye-opener to you?
Well, I think even having read the report, which hasn't been published, from Yorkshire Cricket Club, and having read Rafiq's own evidence, Azim Rafiq's own evidence to the committee, is one thing. But to actually hear it and see the impact that it's had upon him in person in that testimony, quite frankly, was jaw-dropping and very, very affecting. And he gave very powerful emotional testimony to the committee, which I think anyone watching it couldn't help but being moved by and couldn't help but feel that there's a real problem that needs to be addressed.
And you feel, do you, Kevin, listening to that, having read reports which have not been made public yet, that the case for an accusation of institutional racism is made? And if you do feel that, tell me, what in your mind does it mean?
Well, not only do I feel that, I asked that question to the recently outgoing chair of Yorkshire Cricket Club, who resigned over this whole affair, and because of his concern about the attitude of other executives and the club as a whole. And he confirmed to the committee that in his view, the club did qualify for that qualification of being institutionally racist. And I think what it actually means basically is that there is a complete lack of awareness and within the higher echelons of Yorkshire County Cricket Club of the impact of the culture of the club and the culture of the dressing room and of the boardroom on particularly South Asian players, but players of colour, to the extent that they weren't trying to put right the issues that were being brought to them by players, including Azim Rafiq, and principally by Azim Rafiq, but they were, if you like, trying to sort of smooth it over, cover it up, and ultimately, when they didn't like what was in the report that was being prepared for them independently, they first of all changed the terms of reference so that those making the report weren't allowed to make a judgment of institutional racism, and then they attempted to cover it up and not publish it at all, and even to withhold it from the regulator of cricket, the England and Wales Cricket Board, the ECB, whose job it was to oversee the whole thing. So it's a pretty shocking state of affairs.
And is it your judgment then, having heard evidence today, you'll be no doubt a part of the report of the committee when that is finally drafted and written and published, that this could be a turning point, a redefining moment?
Well, I think everybody who witnessed today's hearing has been saying that they feel that is the case. Of course, we know that from time to time in sport and in other areas there are these moments, and this must be one where real change happens. There are initiatives going on, as Mr. Rafiq himself told the committee, but the reality is that the representation of players of colour, and particularly South Asian players, in the professional game at the top of the game has actually been declining extraordinarily. When you look around any city centre location, including my own in Cardiff, where the local community of Riverside is, it has a big South Asian population, and it's right next door to the Sophia Gardens cricket ground, the home of Glamorgan County Cricket, and yet there's all this participation at the grassroots and enthusiasm for the game, and players are not then being translated through into the professional game. There's something seriously wrong, and the evidence is pretty clear, and that's what needs to be addressed. And I thought the saddest moment today was when Azim Rafiq said that he wouldn't want his own son playing cricket. What a terrible indictment that is of the sport, that such a talented player wouldn't want his own son to participate in the sport because of the experiences he's had as a person of South Asian origin.
I wonder what a solution to the situation you're describing might look like. And do you imagine your committee will go down the route of making detailed recommendations of how the sport of cricket might respond to this? Or are you going to leave that largely to cricket clubs and the ECB?
I think the ECB must take the lead role on this. I think that also the government should also clearly make its own position clear and make a clear statement on all of this, of what it wants to see, because there is public money involved very often in a lot of the initiatives that are being taken in this regard. But ultimately, it's for the ECB to show the leadership. And quite frankly, their evidence today suggested that it was a bit of a mess. They were actually allowing Yorkshire to investigate themselves, allegedly through some independent process, but a process, in which the terms of reference for the report, could be changed without the chair of the cricket club even knowing, without the ECB even knowing. And ultimately, the report was withheld from the ECB, the governing body of the game and the regulator, if you like, because Yorkshire Cricket Club didn't want them to see it. And we also heard some very worrying things about the governance of Yorkshire Cricket Club, which may also, be something that's true of other county cricket clubs. So I think it is for the ECB to take the lead. I think the proof will be whether in 2, 3, 4 years' time, some of those young players are coming through into professional ranks, or whether there's still an actual decline going on in the number of ethnic minority players represented at professional level at the top of the game.
And just lastly, and briefly, if I could, Kevin, you're looking ahead 2, 3 years, but you could also argue and easily imagine what we heard and saw today, and what will flow from that, the continuing inquiry of your committee, the response of county cricket and the ECB is going to be talked about for decades to come. We're talking about our national sport. Yorkshire is an iconic institution within our national sport, and nothing will be quite the same after this.
That is absolutely right, and the fact that they've been told they can't have any test matches or major matches by the ECB, while all this is going on, is just when you think about how iconic Headingley is as a test ground and so on, it is an extraordinary state of affairs. I just hope, and this is a genuine hope. It is right that all this has come out, because the truth must come out about this. And at the end of the day, these issues can only be addressed by people being open and truthful. But I just hope it also doesn't have a damaging effect, on the game, because, at the end of the day, what we want to see is, a vibrant sport for all, in this country. And cricket, has been making a lot of very positive noises recently about inclusivity, whether it's on gender, whether it's on race or whatever, about it being a sport for everybody. But the evidence is, and clearly was there today, that is not being translated through to the top of the game, and that has to be an outcome from today's events.
Kevin, good to talk to you. Kevin Brennan, Labour MP for Cardiff West, and a member of the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee, who heard that evidence from Azim Rafiq this afternoon.